Back there. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening or good night. I'm delighted to be here. I'm reminded of a story about a general, a politician, and a private were captured, and they were going to be executed. And they had a last wish. And they asked the politician, "What is your last wish?" And he said, "I'd like to address a political rally one more time before I die." I said, "Fine." Turned to the general and said, "What is your wish?" The general said, "I would like to address the troops one more time." And he turned to the private. He said, "What is your wish?" He says, "Kill me before those two speak." Now let me tell you, I'm a little anxious standing up here and talking to you. And I say that because a while back, I was in Raleigh at the airport, Raleigh, North Carolina, at the center of the universe. And my flight was delayed. And I was sitting there, I was bored, and I picked up an abandoned newspaper, and I started scanning it. And I came across an article that intrigued me. It was about a study, and the study was on communications. And it was done by a prestigious university in Massachusetts. And basically what the study concluded was that the average American spends between 70 to 80% of their waking hours listening, pretty much like you're doing right here. Listening. Unfortunately, they only hear 50% of what's being said. They only understand half of that 50%. They remember even less, and their attention span is 2 minutes. We use 35% of our listening capacity. I was thinking about it as I was sitting here. And somebody tells me that there's going to be instant translation here, so I didn't realize we're going to have a language barrier here on top of that. And then they tell me I'm the last speaker. Let me tell you, I have great admiration for your tolerance and patience sitting in these uncomfortable chairs and listening to all of us. But I really think my task is mission impossible. I've been asked to speak about heroism and patriotism. Let me start with patriotism. Some time ago, somebody said, patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. There's an element of truth in that. Some people will drape themselves in a flag and camouflage themselves to be patriots. These are false patriots. Too many people think of nationalism and patriotism are the same thing. They are not. They are completely different. Nationalism is the habit of identifying oneself with a single cause and a single idea, and placing it beyond good and evil, and recognizing no other duty than advancing its interest. Nationalism always had that combination of blind zeal and indifference to reality. This is not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about patriotism. A patriot to me is someone who loves his country for what it is, has achieved, and what it stands for. He identifies with its values, its principles, its ideas, and most importantly, is willing to sacrifice for his or her country. When duty calls, he or she can be counted on. Patriots come in different shapes, sizes, male, female, and all walks of life. Some confuse patriots with heroes. They are not one and the same. Oh, some patriots may be public heroes, but I truly believe the average patriot will never make the headlines, be singled out for any award, or even be noticed by anybody but the close family and friends. He or she will go through life, a long, productive life, a quiet life, and be buried with very little fanfare. But nonetheless, this person can be a true Israeli patriot because he or she had the confidence and the commitment to their country. They helped create an economy that is larger than all of its immediate neighbors combined. Because of them, Israel enjoys the highest living standards in the Middle East and celebrates as the only liberal democracy in the Middle East. The Patriots' specific contributions are too numerous to be listed in the time that I have or within your attention span. All this and more has been achieved because of the Patriot, while engaged in a continuous war from its very beginning, with an unsatisfiable enemy that seeks its destruction and an economy that continuously under strain by having to spend more per capita on its own protection than any other country on earth. Israelis have every reason to be proud and to be patriots, to walk tall and keep their heads up high. I and many who are not Jews are proud of your achievements and contributions that you have made and will continue to make. At the same time, it is not the moment for complacency. You cannot allow either the greatness or the fears of the past to be a drag on your future. Nor can you simply believe that in the future you will reap what you did not sow. There is a need to nurture patriotism and develop patriotism among your young for a brighter and safer future. Now let me turn to the subject of heroism and heroes. What motivates an individual to do incredible things in battle, face extreme danger, and risk their lives? Well, it's a function of motivation. It is clear, however, that we are not nearly as knowledgeable about reasons why people behave as they do as we thought we are. Military heroism is a much higher attainment than anything that occurs in any other field. To be a hero requires taking risks, to exposing yourself to jeopardy. Heroism requires nobility of purpose, some goal that is outside of your own self-interest. And heroism requires a will for sacrifice. It is a very selfless act. A military hero, as we see here today discussed, is someone who has performed an act or service above and beyond the call of duty, which is doing more than what was expected under the existing conditions. Many, but not all military heroes are recognized. However, many acts of personal heroism go unrewarded because they were undetected or they overlooked. My experience has shown that people fall into one of three groups, or three categories. There are few who make things happen. There are many who watch things happen. And there's the overwhelming majority that doesn't have a clue as what the hell is happening. We honor, and we heard earlier, people who made things happen. A reasonable person may ask, what influences these heroes to act in a manner they did? I would argue, based on my experience of 40 years in uniform, that it can be attributed to 5 things. 1, much like heroes in the past, they did what was necessary for each other. Group ties and unit cohesion was a significant behavioral factor. You do not let your buddies down. You never leave a buddy behind. And one should never underestimate the emotional bond between comrades. 2 is ideological motivation. An educated and intelligent force will understand and subscribe to idealistic principles. The cause does matter. For Israelis, the sheer survival is a credible cause. 3 is leadership. Under good leadership, an organization is greater than the sum total of its members. And under bad leadership, it is much, much less. Under good leadership, a unit and individuals exude confidence and the best of character. 4 is training. That is realistic and demanding training will enhance the behavior of soldiers. For example, highly regarded Brigadier General S.L.A. Marshall concluded in a study about America's World War II soldiers that in a squad of 10 men, an average fewer than 3 ever fired their weapon in combat. Day in and day out. It did not matter how long they'd been soldiers, how many months of combat they had seen, even when the enemy was about to overrun their position. In an average experienced infantry company, in an average day's action, the number engaging with any and all weapons was approximately 15% of the total strength. In the most aggressive companies, under the most intense local pressure, the figure rarely rose above 25% of the total strength from opening to the close of the battle. Those startling figures and findings were corrected through aggressive, realistic, and challenging training. The last factor is fear. We spoke a little bit about fear earlier. Yes, fear can be a motivator. I would argue that without fear, there are no heroes. We are born in fear, we are reared in fear, and we pass our life in fear of want, pain, and death. In our earliest and most impressionable years, we are taught to fear darkness, fire, accidents, disease, cars, the boogeyman. The list is endless. Of course, when we are still young, we fear middle age. When we are middle age, we feel old age. And all the time, we fear death. Immediately when a nation goes to war, a new set of fears arouses. Now, morale's natural enemy is fear. And fear of the unknown is always more harmful than fear of the known. The natural antidote to fear is discipline and training. Indeed, discipline might be defined as the art of looking fear in the face. When initiative and discipline become instinct, there is no chink in the armor through which fear can penetrate and paralyze. In a final analysis, a hero is an ordinary individual who has been prepared and finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Let me conclude by sharing with you a quote by the late President John F. Kennedy, who said, "A nation reveals itself not only by the men and women it produces, but also by the men and women it honors and remembers." Today's program is a tribute to that statement and its spirit. And now I'm reminded of a little poem that says, "Blessed is the man who, have nothing further to say, abstains from giving us the evidence of that fact." Thank you very much.